Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're tackling something that generates just a massive amount of noise, endless headlines, and honestly a whole lot of confusion. We're talking about cryptocurrency. Now, our goal today is really simple. Let's completely strip away the hype, ditch the jargon, and look objectively at what this technology actually is. How does it function beneath the surface, and what does it mean for the future of money? No fluff, just the facts, laid out so clearly that you're going to know exactly what's going on.
To kick things off, let's take a quick little trip back to the holidays of 2017. Now, the industry had been around for a while, but that was the year Bitcoin's value absolutely skyrocketed. It literally burst into the mainstream. Suddenly, it seemed like everyone's uncle or neighbor was asking the exact same inescapable question over the backyard barbecue. So, do you have any Bitcoin? That massive wave of curiosity was great, but man, it brought with it a ton of questions and, frankly, a whole lot of misinformation.
So, to cut through all that noise, here's our roadmap for today. We'll decode the basics and storage, explore the wider market beyond just Bitcoin, weigh the good against the bad, tackle the hurdles of regulation, and finally, look at some actual real-world solutions. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, Decoding the Crypto Basics. What really sets it apart? Before we can talk about where this whole industry is going, we've got to clearly define how this technology is different from the traditional cash you've got sitting in your wallet right now.
At its absolute core, the fundamental difference isn't just that cryptocurrency is digital. I mean, the money in your banking app is digital too, right? The real difference is that no central bank or government controls it. Instead, it relies on a global, completely decentralized network of volunteers. They're securing a public ledger called a blockchain. Think of it like a giant, unbreakable digital spreadsheet. These computers work together around the clock to record absolutely everything, and the people running them earn small crypto rewards for their effort. It is a completely transparent financial system operating totally without a CEO.
Which brings us right to Section 2, safely storing your assets, exchanges versus wallets. Once you actually go out and buy these digital coins, where do they go? How on earth do you keep them safe without a traditional bank vault?
Well, it generally boils down to two main options. First, you have crypto exchanges. These offer just immense convenience for buying and trading, but staying constantly connected to the internet carries some pretty inherent hacking risks. On the flip side, you have what's called cold storage wallets. These act like your own personal offline digital safe. They actually often look just like a little USB flash drive. Once you transfer your coins onto them, those assets become completely untouchable to the outside world until you physically plug that device back into a computer.
And this actually brings us to a really famous, hard-learned rallying cry in the industry. Not your keys, not your crypto. See, major exchanges have collapsed in the past, completely bankrupt, leaving customers totally unable to access their funds. The lesson there is crystal clear. If you don't personally hold the private digital keys to your assets, like you do with a cold storage wallet, you don't truly control them. Ultimately, deciding between the super easy convenience of an exchange and the bulletproof security of cold storage comes entirely down to your own personal risk tolerance.
All right, we've got the basics and storage down, so let's jump straight into Section 3, Beyond Just Bitcoin. It is a super common misconception that Bitcoin is the only player in this game. In reality, cryptocurrency is an umbrella term. It covers tens of thousands of different digital coins, and they all have their own unique quirks and purposes.
Having said that, we absolutely have to acknowledge the giant in the room. Bitcoin is widely seen as the founding father of this entire space. It holds the largest market cap by far, that's the total value of all its coins in circulation, and it really just dominates the conversation. In fact, its price movements are so incredibly influential that they generally dictate the trend of the entire crypto market. But here's the thing. While Bitcoin was designed primarily as a pure alternative to traditional government-issued money, a lot of the other coins out there have vastly different goals.
Which actually brings us to the second most popular cryptocurrency out there, Ethereum, and its really revolutionary core feature, smart contracts. Okay, think of a smart contract kind of like a digital vending machine. You meet the exact conditions, you insert the exact funds, and press the exact button, and the contract automatically executes the outcome. There are no middlemen, no delays. They automatically trigger an agreed-upon result the exact second those specific conditions are met, and this opens the door for a massive range of decentralized applications.
Now, outside of heavy hitters like Bitcoin and Ethereum, the market largely splits into two camps: functional altcoins and meme coins. Altcoins are functional alternatives designed to solve really specific technical limitations. Take Litecoin, for example. It aims to process transactions way faster. Or Solana, which drastically lowers the fees associated with those smart contracts we literally just talked about. Meme coins, on the flip side, well, they emerge from the absolute chaos of internet culture. They generally lack any real functional purpose at all, and quite honestly, they often resemble high-risk pyramid schemes driven entirely by hype, where investors run a huge risk of losing everything.
And that transitions us perfectly into Section 4, the good and the bad. It's time to weigh the risks and address the elephant in the room regarding the industry's highly polarized reputation.
Let's start by dispelling a major misconception. Back in the early 2010s, largely thanks to dark web marketplaces like the Silk Road, crypto earned a heavy stereotype as being just a primary tool for criminals. The irony of that? A public blockchain actually leaves a permanent, highly traceable record of every single transaction ever made. That makes it uniquely terrible for hiding illicit activity today. While real-world identities might be obscured initially, the data trail itself is forever.
So what is the legitimate utility here? Well, for one, international payments. Sending money overseas through a traditional bank can take weeks, and they hit you with huge fees. But crypto? It can settle these transactions in literally seconds, and for just a fraction of the cost. On top of that, many cryptocurrencies have a strictly fixed mathematical supply. That means no government can just suddenly decide to print more of it. For a ton of users around the world, this acts as a vital shield against government-driven inflation and economic mismanagement. It operates much like digital gold.
Of course, it is not all smooth sailing. Let's look at Section 5, Regulation and the Trilemma. Developers and regulators alike are currently wrestling with some absolutely massive technological and legal challenges.
The core technological hurdle here is known as the blockchain trilemma. It's basically a giant puzzle. Developers are constantly trying to balance three vital principles: security to stop attacks, scalability to handle high transaction volumes, and decentralization to prevent any single entity from taking control. The ultimate headache is that no project has perfectly balanced all three at once. Boosting one almost always sacrifices another. If you make it highly secure and decentralized, well, then it processes way too slowly. Make it highly scalable, and you usually have to sacrifice that core decentralization. It is a massive challenge, and the brightest minds in the space are literally still trying to solve it right now.
Beyond the tech side of things, we have some really severe market and regulatory risks. Extreme price volatility means that entire portfolios can be wiped out in a matter of hours, and a general lack of regulation leaves the door wide open for fraudsters. Naturally, governments are stepping in. For instance, Australia now requires exchange licenses, and the US SEC is actively pursuing lawsuits against fraudulent projects. At the exact same time, governments are actually developing their own central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Now, these use blockchain tech, but they come with a distinct trade-off: the potential for unprecedented government oversight on your individual day-to-day spending.
But despite all these hurdles, the technology is still evolving. And that brings us to our final section, Section 6, Real-World Crypto Solutions. Let's look at how this tech is stepping out of the theoretical digital realm and solving highly tangible physical problems.
Here is a really fascinating, tangible example. You know how inner-city apartment buildings almost always lack the roof space for solar panels? Well, to fix this, there's an innovative tokenization project that allows homeowners who do have solar panels to sell their excess energy to the grid in exchange for tokens. Apartment residents can then simply buy those tokens to access and pay for purely renewable energy. It is a seamless, blockchain-bridged marketplace that connects people who generate green energy directly with those who want to consume it. How cool is that?
Or consider your groceries. Have you ever wondered exactly how fresh the meat or the tomatoes at your local supermarket really are? By attaching a secure token to a food package barcode, a farmer can create an absolutely unalterable, tamper-proof record. So when the supermarket eventually puts that product on the shelf, you, the consumer, can use a simple smartphone scan to verify its exact harvest date, its packaging time, and its origin. It injects total, unshakable transparency and trust right into the supply chain.
Which leaves us with a final, really important question to ponder. Must cryptocurrency solve everyday real-world problems in order to survive? The general consensus among experts suggests that it's highly unlikely these digital coins will ever fully replace established fiat currencies, like the US or Australian dollar. Instead, its survival hinges entirely on utility. If the technology can successfully pivot away from just internet hype and focus on consistently solving meaningful real-world problems like energy distribution and food tracking, well, it just might have a permanently bright future. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.